There is a very rapidly growing in concern movement among the Republican Party about how to get control of the party back in advance of the 22 midterms and certainly in advance of the 2024 Republican presidential primary. Now, you might be saying, well, get control back from who? Or you might understand that the question is about getting control back from Donald Trump. And there are a number of interesting articles about this that have come out over the last 24 hours. One such article in the Washington Post reports about clashes between Republican leaders and the candidates that Trump has embraced, and that these clashes have been playing out around the country. A chaotic sign that Trump's once unchallenged hold on the party and rank and file supporters is waning, even by degrees. And I think at this point we have to say Trump's control over the party is waning, but only to a degree. In other words, we see that the number of Republicans, the percentage of Republicans that want Trump to run again is lower, but it's still not low. It's still above 50% of Republicans at last check. But interestingly, the Washington Post writes, the former president's power within the party and his continued focus on personal grievances is increasingly being questioned behind closed doors at Republican gatherings, according to interviews with more than a dozen prominent Republicans in Washington and across the country, including some Trump advisors. Not surprisingly, many spoke on the condition of anonymity because there remains significant fear of attracting Trump's public wrath. Also being reported by Business Insider on the basis of the Washington Post report, Republican leaders are holding closed-door meetings to question Trump's power over the party, report says. Now, I think it's an important reminder to tell you guys, questioning Trump's power is very different than questioning Trumpism or the sweeping authoritarian slide that the Republican Party experienced under Trump. But we'll get to that in a moment. Discontent with Trump is growing among some Republican leaders. Senior Republicans are questioning Trump's hold over the party in meetings. Some Republicans reportedly think Trump's fixation with election fraud could cost them in elections. I think the same thing, and I'm hoping that it happens. I think that there's a few different things to talk about here. First of all, it's sort of like 6 years too late in the sense that we would be living not in a different country, but on a different planet had Republicans had these meetings previously. Now, they kind of did have these meetings early on in the Republican primary, and ultimately their voters chose Trump anyway. Now, could the Republican Party have done more to prevent Trump from having become the nominee in 2016? Yes, they could have done more, but it's possible that because, the issue with the Republican electorate is that it's a monster of their own creation. They attacked education for decades. They abandoned issues increasingly and focused on cultural issues and talking points and this sort of thing. And what that led to in 2016 was a monster that they couldn't even control. Could they have turned the ship around once it was summer of 2016? I don't know. I don't know if they could have. The other, at the same time, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. If the Republican Party is deciding it wants out of Trump, okay, they didn't do it 6 years ago, but they can start doing it now. The bigger issue here is that even if it's not in their best interests to have Trump represent the party publicly, it doesn't mean that they want to abandon the authoritarian, non-thinking, reactionary slide that the party experienced under Donald Trump. They're not questioning Trump's authoritarianism. They're not questioning Trump's disdain for media and a free press. They're not questioning any of that. The meetings are about, is it good for the face of the party to be Trump doing rallies, complaining about the election he lost 15 months ago? It's about the particular person that is out there speaking prominently as the face of the Republican Party. And in fact, I would say the opposite. They've become enamored over the last 6 years with this kind of harebrained brand of authoritarianism. And it's evident in that so many of them are now talking about Ron DeSantis and falling in line behind DeSantis. DeSantis is just as authoritarian as Trump. He's more competent than Trump, which could make him potentially more dangerous and effective as well. So this is not a Republican reaction saying we've got to get away from this authoritarianism and get back to issues. They're not saying that at all. They're not saying, wow, we've really tried to end even the facade of democracy over the last couple of. They're all about all of that stuff. They are just worried that Trump at the helm is not best for them from a strategic point of view. They may be right about that, but they don't seem to be concerned with the actual direction of the party. They just want someone else at the head of the party. So what effect will this have in November of 2022? We just don't know yet. And Donald Trump at this point, I don't think has more rallies scheduled, but there's been talk about, will he go to Colorado in support of Lauren Boebert, one of the most weaponized and dangerous results of Trumpism in the House of Representatives? What is Donald Trump going to be doing in general between now and the November election? We will talk a little bit later about one particular thing that he's doing, which is backing big lie supporters in positions of election administration, which is exactly what he said he would do, and he's doing it. We're going to get back to that. But it could be a very interesting matchup here between anti-Trump Republicans and Trump going into the midterms. What can we hope for as people on the left? Let's hope it just messes them up and limits the degree to which Republicans win in November, if at all. And of course, we're going to try to work on the if at all piece and avoid losing the House and Senate, but remains to be seen.